We are now going to create the custom exception. What this custom exception is going to be used for is whenever the exception that hasn't been caught has been thrown, basically any exception that we haven't actually wrapped with a try catch statement, whenever this sort of exception has been thrown, then this default custom exception which we're going to create will basically process it. And based on our environment constant, which we've set either to 0 or 1, we're basically going to be displaying the relevant message. If it's the production environment, basically the site is live, then it's going to display a simple message to the visitor. Otherwise, it's going to obviously display more detailed information to the developer when the site is in a developing, obviously, environment. Okay, so inside of the SSD folder, we're going to create a new class, and we're going to call it SSD exception. Make sure that the namespace is right. Obviously, it's SSD, and we're going to be using backslash and the exception. We're using backslash again because obviously the exception belongs to the default standard PHP library, so it's from the root straight away. That's why backslash at the beginning. And now this SSD exception will extend this exception class. Now inside of this new SSD exception class, we're going to create private function. Is going to be a static actually. So static function, it is development. And what we're simply going to return here is we're going to check if the environment constant is set to 1. Environment equals 1. If it equals 1, obviously it will return true. Now if we scroll down a little bit, and the next and last method is going to be called public static as well function get output, and we're going to be passing the instance of the exception object. And now we check if is object e, and we're going to check e instance of exception class. We need to make sure that obviously this, even though it's an object, we know obviously after this first if statement here, we also need to know if it's the instance of our exception class. And now we check if self is development, if we are in the development phase, else we're going to display a simple message, echo within the paragraph, an error occurred, and then BR, sorry, it's double R, BR, and we go, I'm going to put on new line, echo, concatenating with please contact us explaining what has happened. Again, new line, and then echo, we are sorry for any inconvenience. And then we can close the full stop and closing paragraph tag. And then we're going to use exit to make sure that none of the rest of the content of the page is displayed on the page, basically. So we only render this message, nothing else is outputted to the browser. So that's if we are in a production. If we are in the development phase, then we simply go for out equals array. And now we're going to be adding to this array out equals message and exception get message. Then out, next thing will be file, indicating what file it is that's causing the problem. Again, get file, which is the built-in, all these are built-in methods of the standard exception class. Out, then we go for the line, on which line the problem occurs, and it's get line. Then we go for the code and get code, and you can continue, obviously, use as many methods as you want, obviously, the message to be composed out of. I think for me that's enough basically to identify the error. ULLI, we're going to be using implode, and we're going to use closing li and opening li, and we implode our out array this way basically, and then closing ul tag to make sure that all these lines of code are displayed as unordered list, and then exit as well to make sure that the code is terminated here. So that's our custom exception created, because these are the only two methods that are inside of this class. Let's move to the next video, and I'm going to show you how to actually use it.